What are these? They still make these? And how do you even play these? They go by a lot of names, singles, 45s, but here we like to refer to them as 7 inches. 7 inches were introduced to the world by the record label RCA Victor back in 1949, kind of as a competitor to your standard 12-inch vinyl.
Why the 7-inch size and the 45 speed? Just to be different?
No, sir.
7 inches tend to go at 45 RPM, which is why they were also referred to as 45s a lot of the time. There's a reason that this hole is oversized. It's designed that way by RCA Victor because they had a very specific record player at the time, back in the 40s and 50s, that could house this record and play it normally. When you go into record stores and you find an older 45 like this and wonder how you're even supposed to play it, most modern record players don't have a way of playing this by itself, so you usually get this plastic adapter. This thing is 80 cents in most places, and it just pops right into the middle, and it should play on any modern record player. Originally, they were designed to house one song on them, probably around 3 minutes long. They were called a single because that's really what you were getting. You were getting a single song from an artist at the time. So singles were important because you would have big artists, like say Elvis Presley, for instance, releasing most of his music as a single, and it would later be compiled onto a record well after it was originally released. While big artists were releasing singles and they served a purpose, eventually they went out of style in favor of the full 12-inch LP records. But that doesn't mean that they were totally gone for good. Starting in the late 70s, you have the punk rock explosion. With the punk rock explosion, you're seeing bands release faster songs, which means shorter songs that could fit onto the amount of time that's put on each side of a 7-inch. Not only that, since they're in such low demand, they're fairly inexpensive to make. So the medium of a 7-inch actually allows labels that don't have a lot of financial backing to put out a lot of music. You have independent DIY labels like Discord, Tang, Alternative Tentacles, SST, rising to the level of household names because of the 7-inch. Now, the foundation that those labels created in the 80s made it so in the 90s, you would have these new labels branching out into other styles of rock mostly, using the same inexpensive 7-inch model to build support. As we proceed through the 90s, we'll reach the late 90s and eventually the 2000s, and you start to see that vinyl in general is at its lowest point in history. So not only are 7 inches inexpensive to release, so are most vinyl records. So for around 3 decades, the 7-inch kind of becomes a symbol for a local band. If you can release your music on a 7-inch, that can usually be the peak of your career. It's not until the 2010s that we start to see a shift back into 7 inches in the mainstream. That brings us to the modern era right now. So modern 7 inches kind of exists in the space between the 60s and the 80s and 90s, where in the 60s you had all the biggest acts in the world releasing their music on singles, 7 inches. Whereas in the 80s, you had to seek out the music that you wanted to hear. It wasn't so readily available, but it was something that you would find, you would buy it, and you would collect it, and you would own it and appreciate it as though it's its own part of a culture. Today, that culture is fandom. It is appreciating everything that this artist releases, even if it is the same thing packaged in a different way. Nowadays, you'll have everyone from jazz superstars to the biggest names in pop releasing dozens of variations upon variations, and people love it. So this was a crash course on 7 inches, but this won't be the last time we talk about them. So follow and subscribe for more vinyl content.